Hi, Paul Slack. It's Good News Broadcast. I'm here with Thomas Maguer. Hi, Thomas. How are you?
I'm doing really well, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour, ça va?
Ça va bien. Vequentis. Do I pronounce that right? Vequuitas.
So that's Vequitas Capital Corporation, and it's actually a word that I created. Number one, because veritas, which means truth, was already trademarked, but it was a combination of truth and equality. Equality being equitas, and the whole purpose of my brokerage firm was to be able to bring some very good solutions, investment solutions, to the retail market that up to that point were only really reserved for institutional investors. So it was about being able to level the playing field a little bit.
Okay. So give us a little background on yourself.
So for myself, I live in Canada, Toronto, Canada. I'm married, have 2 boys, have a third one on the way. And I did my studies in biomedical sciences, but always had a love for business and finance, so ended up going that route instead of pursuing the medical career. And then worked in diverse capacities throughout the industry, from an analyst at a pension fund to retail advisory channels, culminating as vice president sales for a structured products firm, where I learned how to structure product and sell and bring it to the securities market. And following that, then I decided to go off on my own, founded Vequitas Capital Corporation, simply because I needed to be able to stand behind the product that I was selling, and I needed to be able to believe in what I was doing, especially when clients were relying on me and my integrity to make their investment decisions.
Sounds good to me. And how does this all work? Do people from afar get in touch with you? Are you only based with face-to-face people in Canada?
Well, the funny thing there is that given the fact that we're a U.S. registered firm, despite being based in Canada, we can't solicit any Canadian clients.
Oh.
So that forced me to learn how to generate investor leads online using the internet as the medium to bring the investors to me. And it's actually by doing this that I started getting very knowledgeable in marketing, online marketing, lead capture, lead generation, automation, all these things that are required as a one-man show at the start to be able to have an efficient operation. So using that information, I actually founded my second company, the letter E, Rational Marketing, which focuses on custom lead generation and online strategy to spread good news, good messages, any type of product, launching products. And I believe it was actually in one such product launch for Vequitas that you and I came into contact.
Correct. Well, I was impressed what you had put together, and I said, boy, this would be nice to share with our audience. So how does our audience get involved with you?
Pardon me?
How does our audience get involved with what you're doing?
Well, it really depends. I mean, at the end of the day, the product that you saw there was the culmination of frustration that we felt within the project funding space. And this is one of those places where I inadvertently bumped into it based on where I was generating leads, because I knew there was people with money there. But what I ended up seeing with the over 5,000 project owners that we came into contact with is that it is so packed with fraud and hurt that we needed to do something about it. And even though unrelated to Vequitas, in my career, in my past, I've had the privilege of learning how to raise money effectively in the securities channel. I've also had the great blessing of being able to meet really fantastic people in the industry who were very professional in what they did, had successes in what they did, in different ways of raising capital that are alternative in means, because in this current market environment, credit has dried up for the entrepreneurs. So they need alternative means to generate this float to get started. So we decided to all get together at first and provide some great free content just to give back to the community who had been so good to us. And one thing led to another. We saw some great interest, and we decided to take it all out and go no holds bar and share pretty much the steps and the procedures that we have followed successfully in order to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. So if people are looking to get involved, it would be, spreading the message that this course exists. We're not sure how much longer we're going to be offering it. I believe it closes on Saturday. It doesn't leave all that much time. But it just took such a tremendous amount of time away from our business and our clients that we weren't expecting, that we just wanted to see how it would go out there. But let your friends know, let entrepreneurs know out there who may be discouraged, disheartened at the difficulties that they may be facing, and let them know that through these difficulties, there's always that silver lining, there's always that success around the corner, and I can speak to that from my own personal experience. So in this course, they have the opportunity to learn the best of what I've been able to find, not only from my experience, but also from the experience of my associates who have all been successful in their respective areas of fundraising.
Mm-hmm. Well, fundraising is the ingredient in most cases that is the most difficult to get. I think they even term the person who's able to do it the rainmaker. And we know what position we're in without rain. So we're not in business. So give us a couple examples of what people do or what you have taught them in this class. I don't know if we're going to be able to get this interview up by this coming Saturday, but what are some of the things that people should be aware of?
Okay. Well, the first thing, I think the first point to go at this from is to be very intelligent and calm when you're making your decisions. Oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, as creators, we get very excited very quickly. And excitement, when it gets mixed with things that require collection and rational thought, it doesn't mix. And that's how actually I got defrauded with my wife. Significant amount, our whole life savings, along with $30,000 borrowed from the bank on our first deal. It was because of these emotions that got mixed up. So first point, please reflect on these things in a state of peace. It's very important. The other thing is, it's not because the traditional means don't work anymore that there aren't reliable, justifiable ways of finding capital. The ones that I've seen to work is, number one, the securities channel, structuring your idea, wrapping it, so to speak, into a structure that is amicable to the U.S. securities channel. And in this case, you can do it quite easily with something called a private placement memorandum. So let's say you had a $5 million project or a company that you wanted to do, or you needed additional funding for your company, then you could go to market with this document and go within your different networks or tap into registered investment advisor or broker-dealer channels. It's too much to get into on this call, but we have some videos that are up right now that go into more detail of this. Another one is angel funding. Angel investors being high net worth investors who are typically very successful entrepreneurs and that are looking to invest in other entrepreneurs. And you have these opportunities to go in front of these angel funding boards and to pitch your idea. So it comes down to, well, how well do you believe in your pitch? How well have you structured your thoughts and your company and its execution? And how viable is your product? So that's another very good place to look for money, where oftentimes we've had some of our students, getting $1.5, $3 million, $5 million worth of funding from these means. And with PPMs and otherwise, we've had some successes ranging anywhere between 1.5 and 5 million in the span of a few weeks to 2 months. So these things do work, and these are the different ways that are accessible to you to access capital in ways that otherwise you wouldn't be thinking of. The other ones are a little bit more complicated. It involves using banking instruments in order to get funding. That's where a huge amount of fraud occurs because people get very greedy and start seeing the potential for extreme returns and the ability to make a lot of money and make their dreams come true. And another piece of recommendation here is that if it doesn't make sense in the real world, it doesn't make sense in that world either. No matter what, it has to make sense. And people out there fall into this trap thinking that for $1 they can get $100. That nobody in their right mind would ever give you $100 without some kind of $100 guarantee, if not more, for that $1. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind, when people are promising you things, because there are a lot of unscrupulous individuals out there. Keep these very simple principles in mind, and that will hopefully keep you out of trouble.
I like your thinking. It's very solid, it's very honorable, and obviously quite successful. How does the word equity play out here? Because when you borrow something, you get nothing for nothing. I think it's another one of those words. Somebody wants something for their, investment into you, angels or whatever the type of an investor is. How do you go about that? Do you give up your majority of a company, or does everything always depend?
Well, everything does depend on the situation, and it also depends on the parties that are coming in. So, it doesn't always have to be in equity. When you're looking at, for example, a limited partnership structure, the investors within the fund are called limited partners. Their liability is limited to the amount that they invest, and then they also have no they have no say on the investment decisions of the fund. That relies solely with the general partner. In this case, that would be the entrepreneur or otherwise. So if you had that type of a structure, then the investor would get their respective portion of the profits and any type of distribution that was agreed upon ahead of time, but that doesn't necessarily mean equity. When we're looking, for example, at angel investors, they oftentimes will take equity within the company, but then in exchange for that, you are getting somebody with experience, with connections, with skin in the game to make this successful, because they only have one purpose, angel investors, and that's to make money and to see you be successful. They've bought into you as an entrepreneur, and they've bought into your idea. So depending on the type of situation and the type of backup that you need, you can look at different options. If it's something that you feel you're heavily outmatched, but your idea is good, it's executable, but you need stronger resources, then angel funding and JV and private equity may be a good route. But also know that they don't come cheap, and they can take significant portions of a company, especially if it's not generating any revenues. So that's something else to look at is there a way of bootstrapping and generating revenues ahead of time to increase your company valuation so that when somebody is giving you a round of funding, they get less of the company?
Okay, makes good logic. And is this what you've been teaching? Literally in a course form, or no?
That's not so much what I would be teaching there. That's the topic of an angel funding expert. His name is Brian Brewer. He's had tremendous amount of success there, and he would be teaching that portion of the course. For me, I'm showing people how to securitize their companies or their ideas so that they can go and tap in to the $16 trillion securities channel and hopefully raise some assets there with professional money managers. So these are registered investment advisors or broker-dealers. So that's more my area of things, and how exactly do you get set up so that you can carry this out as an entrepreneur, as a one-man show. So that's my segment. Then we have Allison Caesars. She's a specialist when it comes to writing private placement memorandums in a very special way that generates high conversions. So she's going to teach some aspects of writing PPMs and things that you can do to increase your conversions. And she's also an expert in instrument funding, using bank guarantees, standby letter of credits, and other instruments to get funding. So she's going to explain this very complex process, what goes into it, what they need to be aware of, in order to be safe within these markets and shed a lot of light in the mistruth and the misinformation that has been spread by individuals who have no other purpose than to defraud people of their money. So we're trying to spread that little bit of light, and hopefully it catches fire and puts all those people out of business.
Wow. Yeah, a thorough operation. This is very important because there are so many people that want to do good in the world, don't know about the best way to go to do that. But a company needs to have some stability prior to this. I mean, you can't just come up with an idea. You need to have some kind of a foundation, some sort of a business plan, and possibly be out there for a little while testing the waters on your own. Wouldn't that be so?
Well, it does come from battle testing and baptism by fire, as I like to call it. All of this has come from our personal experience as professionals and as entrepreneurs. And so it's coming from a place of success and of understanding, but it also comes from a place of extreme struggle. Because this information is not readily available to most people, we have spent thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to find these things out, sometimes the hard way, sometimes through clients that we are working for, sometimes from the companies that we were contracted on. So it's 50 years worth of combined experience. But the one thing that I really find ties us all together, the different experts that have come into this, is I guess it's a spiritual backbone. It's this desire within us to be able to make a difference that goes beyond making a whole lot of money, but it's more about making things accessible for people who are serious about taking themselves to the next level, that we're here to help. Because at the end of the day, we are blessed to be where we are today because there were other people who believed in us as well. Mm-hmm. And it didn't always happen as such, but those people were there. So if we can be those people, even for 20, 30 individuals, that's potentially, based on a 30% defraud rate that we deem is conservative based on what we've seen. So on 30 individuals, that's 10 people that we've potentially saved from being defrauded. And if these are brokers with other client projects that are representing clients, then those clients are in better hands now. So every little bit counts, and we're hoping that our intention can vibrate in those markets and hopefully make a difference.
Excellent. Thomas, geez, thank you very much. This is a very solid, important information for an entrepreneur. I appreciate it. We'll link over to your website. People will be able to reach you through that. I have one last question to ask you. What's good news for you?
What's good news for me? Good news for me is the fact that we have such a beautiful opportunity to be alive. And people, when they wake up in the morning and immediately check their phones or check their email, take a breath and just realize how wonderful it is that you are alive and how incredible of a gift that is. And ask yourself the question, why are you here today? What are you doing today? And the more you ask yourself that question, the more profound your life will become. So life is good, Paul. I can't tell you otherwise. For me, that goodness comes in the form of God. For other people, it may come in different forms. But no matter what it is, it really comes down to being able to be at the service of others. That's the good news.